A little two-gamer at home wraps up this afternoon when Temple comes calling. The Shockers trying to stay unbeaten in the conference, and the Owls smarting after a loss at Memphis. Welcome in Shane and Denning, bringing you Shocker Volleyball on WSU TV. And Wichita State, the lone wolf at the very top of the conference, still unbeaten at 13-0, chasing history, chasing a possible host in the NCAA tournament coming up in about a month. This is the unquestioned number 1 and 2 teams in the conference, Denning, and the numbers bear it out everywhere you look. It's Wichita State 1, Temple 2. These two teams met way back in September, and so now Temple looking for a little bit of a revenge. But looking back on Friday against UConn, Wichita State steamrolled the Huskies, and it was more of the same for the Shockers. Emily Hebert did her deal. She would have had much gaudier numbers if the match had gone past 3 sets. Michaela Raudsep only needs 1 kill for 1,000, and Abby Lehman did her thing.
Yeah, after 3+ years of watching Abby Lehman in the Shocker uniform, you'd think we'd have pretty much seen the best that she has to offer. But ever since the start of American Conference play, her numbers have just gotten silly good. She owns 6 of the top 11 individual performances in terms of hitting percentage, and she leads the conference in that category by a whopping 48 points. She really has been something special for Wichita State this season.
And she hit .632 again on Friday. When you're talking about a hitting percentage, 300, 400s in the stratosphere, and she is really rewriting the book. Now, Alex Kuhn pitched in as well. She had a good match against Temple back in September.
Yeah, she continues to really plug along as a steady contributor on the right side. She's really kind of embraced her role in this offensive system as an efficient and dependable scorer who Chris Lamb can count on in big spots.
She had .316 against the Owls back on the 22nd in Philly. We'll see if she can replicate that. When we come back, we'll talk to meet the coaches and the starting lineups on WSU TV.
Wichita State University is Shocker Nation. We exceed expectations, push boundaries, seize opportunities, and move boldly ahead. We are student-centered and innovation-driven. It's who we are. Our vision is simple but powerful. Create, innovate, collaborate, and celebrate. With one unifying purpose: to shock the world.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
Shockers and Owls here this afternoon. Shane Dennis, Denning Gehring, bringing you Shocker Volleyball on WSU TV. The Owls really tripped up on their way to Wichita, losing to Memphis in 5 sets. But Izzy Raposh, Denning, is one to watch. She is very efficient.
Yeah, just doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, Shane. She's pretty explosive as well, had 25 kills against Central Florida, the most by a single player in the American this year in a single match, and she racked up 21 putaways against the Shockers in September. She'll definitely be at the top of this scouting report for sure.
And to continue on the 1 and 2 theme, Emily Hebert, the best with the helpers in the league, and Kira Condoritas is number 2.
Yeah, easily the best 2 setters in the American in my view. Condoritas, a 3rd-team All-American a year ago. She's working on a string of 13 straight matches with 30+ assists, and that all started with 59 helpers against Wichita State.
Bakir Ganajuridam and Chris Lamb, your 2 coaches, the 2 most successful coaches in the American, certainly. Obviously, with the stats bear that out, but back in September, Wichita State got the best of the Owls 3-1. They're the starters for the Temple Owls. A lot of international flavor, safe to say, for Temple. A lot of players from abroad. Obviously, their head coach from Sri Lanka. He has spent some time in Germany. We'll talk about him throughout the course of the broadcast. And there's Chris Lamb, his 18th year for Wichita State. They'll have a somewhat familiar lineup with starters for him.
2 teams really that I think are kind of composed along the same profile. Both teams rely pretty heavily upon balance. The Owls have 7 players with 90+ kills. They've got 4 hitters in the top 16 in the conference in efficiency. And the Shockers, well, we know plenty about their balance as well.
We talked a little bit about it during the open, and Wichita State draws first blood. It's almost inexplicable that Temple tripped up in Memphis when you look at the records, but I think when you strip it all down, Denning, it's fairly simple. You know, Temple spent most of the week game planning for Wichita State, and probably the opposite was true. It just happened that Wichita State was more efficient in their match against UConn, and Temple was not against Memphis.
Yeah, if you view that match in a vacuum against Memphis, you'd think there's absolutely no way that Temple could possibly come up on the short end statistically. They dominate the Tigers in virtually every category, but as we know, sometimes those trap games can come up on you, and it certainly was the case for Temple.
Kill by Dana Westfield, a sophomore. She had 7 against Memphis, and through the block, point side out out. And again, this is the rematch that has been a long time in the making. It's been forever since these two clubs have seen each other. Big swing by Papazoglu, the Greece native. And Temple takes an early 2-1 lead.
Going to see a lot of that from Emily Hebert this afternoon, trying for that quick second ball over. She has really adapted her game to include that into the repertoire. This time, though, the angle was a little bit off.
So back and forth we go here in the early going. There you see Maya Harakuji. She had 18 digs on Friday. The libero for Temple. A native of Hawaii. You've got a Croat, a Serb, a couple of Hawaiians, a German, and a Greek on this Temple roster. And a big swing on the right side. Point side out Temple.
Our first look at Izzy Rapage, the senior from Glenview, Illinois, who, as I mentioned, had a really good game against Wichita State earlier this year. 21 kills. That was a career high, but she later broke that with the 25 against Central Florida.
6 in the American in kills per set. And the best in kills per set and percentage and everything else for Wichita State, Abby Lehman. That quick in the middle, hard to stop.
Good clean system there from Wichita State, and Emily Hebert with the perfect pass right into the hitter's pocket and put away easily by Lehman.
Eva Dayoc had very little chance on the solo block right in the middle of the floor. That is in, down in the deep right corner on the Shocker floor. That's Papazoglu, the freshman from Greece that I was mentioning. She had 8 kills, but hit only .029 against Memphis a couple of days ago.
That was a good pass, too, by Konderides, who was having to go away from the net, adjusted her body in midair, and still put it where she needed to.
Off a fingertip on the back tape. First kill of the day, the night of the day, I should say, for Tabitha Brown, who was kind of quiet on Friday.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing, Shane. We didn't hear much of her on Friday. The Shockers didn't necessarily need her against UConn, but she is a valuable weapon, and when she gets going, she can definitely carry a team.
Yeah, the Shockers with the stuff at the net. That'll give them a 5-4 lead. Yeah, that Tabitha Brown Friday, she was efficient, hit .357, but only had 6 kills, so not as many swings as you normally see out of her. And there, that stone wall on the left side of the tape for Wichita State gives the Shockers a 5-4 advantage.
We've really watched her development as an all-around volleyball player this year, not just a big-time outside hitter, but her ability to dig balls and get up for big-time blocks as well.
Hebert and Shelton ran together, but it worked out, at least for the moment. A little tip there by Izzy Rapage. Shockers were ready for that. Quick in the middle, and a nice dig on the back by Rapage. And the Shockers end up with a 2-point advantage. That's been a rarity here in the early going. It's been back and forth.
Good recognition by Emma Wright in the middle. That there was a lot of court available in the donut of that Temple defense, and she just elevates and hits this. It looks like Hebert was ready to set up, and Wright said no thanks.
Thought she was going to step on her back and get a little extra elevation. Brown through the block.
Someone who never needs extra elevation, Tabitha Brown, elevating to hit that one through a couple of 6'1" and 6'2" blockers as she gets it just through the high hands.
And sometimes it just comes down to sheer velocity. If I can hit it harder than you can handle, it'll find the opposition's floor. That was high velocity by Tabitha Brown. Now Wichita State really establishing some dominance at the net.
Dayoc trying to come around on the slide there for Temple, but the block was set up as Tabitha Brown and Emma Wright team up for the stuff.
So Eva Dyack, who had 7 kills on Friday and hit 375, finds going a little tougher sledding here this afternoon. 8-4 Shockers. You're watching Wichita State on WSU TV.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
It was a tussle early, but most recently Wichita State trying to pull away from the number 2 team in the American, and Denning, really Wichita State's presence at the net has been big here early.
And it's from a girl you wouldn't necessarily expect it from either. Tabitha Brown, not one of those who's at the top of Wichita State's statistical leaders in terms of blocks, but she's been in the right place at the right time for a couple big ones.
And off a Shocker fingertip, Izzy Raposh really elevated and delivered a bullet right down the middle of the Shocker floor. So they interrupt a little mini Shocker run. Point inside out Temple. Katerina Papazoglou, the freshman from Greece, to serve. Boy, Wichita State caught unaware a little bit. 2 in a row by the Temple Owls now.
Good serve from the back by Papazoglou. This Temple team among the leaders in the American in the service game. They have a couple who can score some points from the back line.
That's her 16th ace. An overpass handled beautifully by Emily Hebert. This close maybe from a violation, but it turns into a Shocker point.
It's one thing to keep the ball on your side of the net, but she does so with such touch that she's still able to set up Wright, who just did get her fingertips to it and got it down.
And credit to Emma Wright, too. 6'3" middle blocker from Phoenix.
You have to have faith that your setter is going to be able to win that ball at the net. Still have to elevate and be prepared to hit it.
Westfield dug out by Wichita State's Chivita. But then Raposh returned the favor. And point Temple. So back and forth we go. Temple, that timeout did him some good.
Well, there we saw how difficult it is to kind of feed that ball with some touch when it's right on top of the net. Hebert tried to do the exact same thing to Wright, but this time the timing was a little bit off. The point goes to the Owls.
Eva Dyack to serve for Temple. And you pull it off once, that's one thing, but to do it consistently on an overpass, that's probably asking a little too much, even from Emily Hebert.
The overpass is starting to hurt the Shockers just a little bit. They put Hebert into some very tough spots.
Dyack trying to make it 2 in a row, trying to tie up the match. And the block in the middle, Temple exerting their will after seeing Wichita State put on a clinic.
Owls have some height in the middle, whether it's Janine Simmons, 6'1", or Dyack, who goes 6'1" as well. They can definitely cause some problems for some middle hitters.
Shockers get a little charity there to retake a lead here early in the first set. Dyack with the service error. Georgia Chivita, Italy native, serving for Wichita State. Now Temple starting to put a little something together.
It's Westfield on the outside for the Owls, one of a couple of freshman outside hitters that they have along with Papazoglou. It's an interesting kind of roster breakdown when you look at their outside hitters. They've got those 2 freshmen, but then also a couple of seniors in Parrish and Raposh.
Now Alex Kuhn, we highlighted her at the very beginning. She had a nice match against Temple the opening weekend, hit 316 against the Owls, hit 375 against UConn in that initial road swing way back in September. The Shockers need to clean up the passing just a little bit. That's what got them out to that 8-4 advantage to begin at the beginning. But that's been consistent. Wichita State's been a stone wall at the net.
Not a whole lot of clean swings to be had, at least in the early going, as Lehman got herself in the right spot at the right time to turn aside the swing from Simmons. But all hitters having a hard time getting a clean look right now.
The Shockers forge in front by 2. Been tenuous, really, for both. Well, Temple answers. Rapash with kind of an unconventional kill there.
Really well done by Rapash on a ball that was kind of taking her off balance. She was having to lunge at it, and so instead of just guiding it over towards a waiting defender, pushed it towards the back line where there was nobody home.
Hebert to Kuhn with the tip, and a great effort to save it, but only momentarily. We're seeing quite a few kills that aren't necessarily the wind-up and try to hit a bullet to the opposite floor. Seeing a little finesse. Kuhn will serve. The Shockers up 2. Well, it's pretty clear Bakir Ganeshwaratnam, the head coach for Temple, has gotten his club's attention tonight, or today, as opposed to maybe Friday night when they were looking ahead to Wichita State.
What I'm seeing, Shane, is a couple of teams that absolutely have each other scouted out to perfection. This is a chess match going on right now. Lehman getting the kill there for the Shockers on the slide as she comes around and didn't have a whole lot of room to work with. Had to feed it into a very, very tight window in the back line.
She had 12 kills on 19 total swings Friday. No attack errors. And through the block it goes, and Temple answers. So back and forth we go. Seesaw first set here at the Roundhouse. And just wide as Tabitha Brown misfires, trying the left side.
That's her bread and butter down the line. Typically about as good as it gets from her, but she can also slide it cross court if need be. This time Temple was set up in a good defensive position and forced the miscue.
Brown tries it again. And Raudsep denied. Shivada, joust at the net. Point Wichita State.
Emma Wright continuing to make a contribution for the Shockers. She's come up with some rather big points, as this time she was there to redirect this initial deflection from Hebert and give the Shockers a much needed point.
We're still keeping our eye on Michaela Raudsep. One more kill for her individually gives her 1,000 on the season. Chivita, nice job to send it over. And that's deep. Shockers up 2. And it's getting to a point now, Denning, in a particular set where you can afford to trade points. We're not quite there yet, but Wichita State trying to get there.
By the thinnest of margins right now, the Shockers have guided themselves in front, but don't expect this one to be over anytime soon.
Hirakuji had to go to a knee to handle that serve. And Rapash strikes again. Again, she had 15 kills and 41 swings on Friday, also 11 digs.
That's a pretty good back row attack right there. 6'2", long arms. She is pretty much how you build it as far as an outside hitter goes, and that was some thunder.
Oh, quick in the middle, that was pretty. Emma Wright strikes for Wichita State. There's that 2-point lead back that they're looking for.
They have really been feeding her in the early going here this first set. She's gotten a number of opportunities and delivered some big points. That time a very nice swing on the quick in the middle.
Try as Condoritas might, couldn't quite keep that off the Owls' floor. Gabby Mostrom with a dig and a ball handling error by Emily Hebert. Point side out Owls.
Not a bad dig by Mostrom, but it was just at a lower trajectory than I think Hebert was anticipating, so she had to hustle over to the spot, got there just a hair late, and forced the error.
Shockers led briefly by 4, 8-4, but you know Temple, you know it probably wouldn't last, and sure enough it didn't. And Alex Kuhn maybe got a little greedy there on that overpass. Tried to send it cross court. So back and forth we go, 17 all. Crowd getting into it now. Very good crowd for a Sunday afternoon. Only one more chance for the home fans to see Wichita State, and that's going to come after 5 road games in a row by Wichita State after this.
Dayoc has tried that kind of running jump serve a couple of times now, and both times it has gone well long and has gifted the Shockers a couple of points in a set that has been tight the whole way.
And Alex Kuhn maybe mistimed her jump a little bit. Yeah, there are a handful of Temple players that are borderline all or nothing with the serve, that have more service errors than they do aces. But they want to put some pressure on you in the serve game. Not so much this time from Condoritas. Nice tip by Michaela Raudsep. There's number 1,000. Michaela Raudsep, who really carried Wichita State in Philadelphia in September, hit 408 in their previous matchup against Temple. So they're just now bringing her out of bubble wrap. She's been quiet here in the first set.
Career high 23 kills for her up in Philadelphia, and Shockers needed every single one of them.
They sure did. And that block lands out of bounds, and Westfield credited with the kill. She had the very first kill of the match. Dana Westfield with 7 on Friday against the Memphis Tigers. Pressure-packed first set. You knew it would be. The top 2 teams in the American. Hebert sets up Lehman.
That's who you've got to go to there.
I was going to say, let's see if the Shockers get something going here with Batman and Robin, as it were.
I mean, we've seen a lot of right in the middle, but you figured when you needed points that it would have to be Lehman and Hebert with an excellent pass there. The chemistry at work once again for a big-time point.
And that finds a Shocker floor just on the right side of the tape. Big swing by Raposh.
I mean, this is winning time. This is when you go to your big-time players. When it's coming down to the stretch and it's a tight set, you absolutely have to go to your Lehman or your Raposh in Temple's case, and we've seen a couple of big swings as a result.
And there you go. Sometimes strategy goes out the door. Let's just get it to our best player.
Right. To mix our sport metaphors, this is just isolation. Just go one-on-one in the middle and give Lehman a chance to do something with it.
And that last kill by Raposh, by the way, took a lot of guts. She was going for the sideline and landed it right on the tape.
I bet you a nickel she gets another chance.
Big time block at the net to keep it alive. And Tabitha Brown went with the finesse, and Temple was there. Westfield gets the credit for a block assist. And now it's a race to 25 with both teams dead even.
I think it was Dayoc and Raposh who were over there instead of Westfield, but either way, good timing and good anticipation.
That time Wichita State handled the serve just as perfectly as you could have. Hebert gets the credit, but the first pass really from Hannah Shelton is where it's at. That was perfect.
And I've been really impressed with Wright's ability to kind of adjust her swing in midair, and recognizing where the block is set up, she kind of guides that one with the fingertips towards empty court.
And Hebert with a service ace. She now only needs 3 more for 100, but more importantly, the Shockers with that coveted 2-point lead. And timeout Temple. So the Shockers get a couple back-to-back, and now set one is in sight. Come back with more on WSU TV after this.
Wichita State University is Shocker Nation. We exceed expectations, push boundaries, seize opportunities, and move boldly ahead. We are student-centered and innovation-driven. It's who we are. Our vision is simple but powerful. Create, innovate, collaborate, and celebrate. With one unifying purpose: to shock the world.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
Wichita State continuous command here in a back and forth set one. Just about like we thought it would be, and you're going to your big guns: Emily Hebert, Abby Lehman, Izzy Raposh, a lot of the usual suspects as you would imagine down the stretch of the first set. Hebert to serve. Wow, back-to-back great digs on the back line by the Owls. Some high-level volleyball going on right now. Avery Salvador has had two huge digs in this rally for Temple. Through the block, finally, Wichita State gets the point. Tabitha Brown doing the honors.
I didn't even want to say anything to ruin that because that was incredible on both sides. You could see a couple heads hanging from Temple after that point, so demoralizing. They got nothing to hang their heads about. That was one heck of a rally, and the Shockers pulled it out.
Salvador had two otherworldly digs on the back line just to keep it going. Set point for the Shockers and Emily Hebert. Shelton keeps it alive. Through the block, point Temple. Still got a little work to do, the Owls do, but there's a start.
You'll remember from back in September, 2 of the first 3 sets went to extra points. So it's not surprising at all that we have ourselves a nail-biter here.
Katarina Papazoglu, the freshman to serve. Off the slide. Boy, that's usually a surefire point from Raudsep. Through the block, Westfield denied. Tabitha Brown. Wichita State in a war of attrition in the first set takes the set 25-22 in a set that was every bit as exciting as we thought it would be. Number 2 coming at you after this on WSU TV.
Wichita State University is Shocker Nation. We exceed expectations, push boundaries, seize opportunities, and move boldly ahead. We are student-centered and innovation-driven. It's who we are. Our vision is simple but powerful. Create, innovate, collaborate, and celebrate. With one unifying purpose: to shock the world.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
What a wild first set, going the way of Wichita State in their bid to stay undefeated. Shane Dennis, Denning Garrick, Charles Koch Arena. One of the best rallies we've seen this side of Iowa State, Denning. This was not set point, but neither team wanted to relent back and forth late in the first set.
Just a lot of bodies on the floor, a lot of players willing to put everything they had into it. Hannah Shelton with like 3 different dives at different points in that point, and just Tabitha Brown ultimately putting it away in what was easily the momentum deciding point during that first set.
Well, time to catch your breath just a little bit as the teams switch ends. The Shockers actually had more attack errors than Temple did, but hit 244 to the Owls 179. Wichita State with 23 digs. That's been kind of a recurring theme over the last month, Denning. They out-dig practically everybody.
Yeah, Shelton had 8. Shivita contributed her 5, and Gabby Mostrom chipped in 4 as well. That trio has really covered a lot of ground on the back row for the Shockers as of late. They have committed themselves to this new digging philosophy that Chris Lamb has instilled, and it's really been fun to watch.
And Hannah Shelton gets to a milestone as well. We'll get to that in a second. You can stop by the Shocker Sports Grill and Lanes 2 hours prior to all WSU men's basketball games and enjoy great game day specials on food and drinks. It's a perfect place to meet your friends for all the Shocker men's home games, and if they're on the road, you can catch them all on TV at the Shocker Sports Grill and Lanes lower level in the Radigan Student Center. You'll have another chance to do that tomorrow night as Wichita State takes on Newman in their men's second exhibition. Hannah Shelton needed 4 more digs today to get to 500, so she blows past that. Michaela Raudsep now the owner of 1,000 career kills, so I know that individual stuff doesn't mean much to them. It's more for us to talk about a little bit and to rewrite the Shocker record books, but it goes to show you the impact that all these seniors have had over the years at Wichita State.
Yeah, Shelton was an impact performer pretty much from the day she stepped on campus at Wichita State, and has really just kind of found her role, I think, as a defensive specialist, and also in the serving game as well. She is definitely a contributor for the Shockers, and we shouldn't count out Mostrom as well. She has been very solid on the back as well.
So, first set goes to Wichita State. It was back and forth. It was tied 4 times, and actually Temple only led once. Shockers trailed only once, but certainly it went down to the wire. And the Shockers with the all-important first set, and they'll be serving here in set number 2, Georgia Chivita to do the honors, redshirt freshman from Milan. First point goes to Wichita State after kind of an unorthodox and not much behind it swing there by Salvador. That was Parch, beg your pardon. And Parch tried again, but Wichita State with a 2-0 lead. Be interesting to see how Temple reacts, Denning, after that heartbreaker they had against Memphis. They came out with much more resolve here today in the first set, but Shocker still prevailed.
We figured that they would have really put an emphasis on this match, and so while there was always the look-ahead factor against Memphis, that you knew this match meant a lot to them and that they would come out firing, but now it'll be a test of, you just lost a demoralizing set 1. How do you bounce back?
A bit of an overpass there by Mia Hirakuji, the Hawaiian native. It turned into a mishandle at the net and a 3-0 Shocker lead. And Chivita misfires. That'll give Temple a chance to catch their breath.
We mentioned the international flavor, but a couple players from Hawaii as well. Assistant coach Ren Sefra, a Honolulu native, the connection there.
Emily Hebert sets up Michaela Roudsup. Again, to repeat, Denning told you she had 23 kills back on the 22nd of September in that shocker victory in Philly. Hit .408.
Had a pretty quiet first set, though. Just one kill over 9 attacks. And the Shockers will need her to get going.
Through the block, a great one-armed attempt by Hebert, and that'll keep things going. Great dig by Chivita. Got Temple out of system. See if the Shockers can take advantage. Owls recoup. And Abby Lehman strikes again. 5-1 Shockers.
It's got to be so frustrating for opponents to get a number of good swings in any given point, and it still ends up in Abby Lehman putting it away on the slide.
She doesn't quite, I don't think, and you can chime in if you think I'm wrong, but Abby Lehman doesn't quite have the sheer velocity that Tabitha Brown, for example, would have, but she just knows where to hit it. Temple out of sorts now.
That was pretty impressive from Emily Hebert. She had to go on a dead sprint away from the net, and with a bump set, still was able to put it in a good enough spot to feed Alex Kuhn, who, like you just said, knows where to put it. Nice touch.
Coach G wants to call a timeout and regroup. Temple down 6-1. We'll be back with more in set 2 after this on WSU TV.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
Shockers leading 6-1 in set 2. We keep talking about milestones for Wichita State. Hannah Shelton with digs. Michaela Roudsup kills. Emily Hebert really closing in on number 2 when you talk about all-time assists. And this is an historic and a who's who of Shocker volleyball that these players that we're watching right now making an assault on the record books.
Approaching some rarefied air, to be sure. There are some big-time names at the top of Shocker all-time leaderboards, and a number of players on this roster are going to challenge those.
And a rare poor pass by Emily Hebert. And then I think it was Alex Kuhn tried to just ease it over the net, and it was wide, so the point goes to Temple. But here early in the second set, Temple really seems out of sorts. That forced the timeout a couple of minutes ago by their coach. And Wichita State seizing control here, 7-2. Earlier in the season, Danny, you and I talked about in some of the middle to lower tier teams in the league, the Shockers would kind of feel them out in the first set and then blow them away, just smother them in the second, third, and fourth if necessary. You wouldn't have thought that would be the case here with Temple, because Temple is a perceived and really good volleyball team, but maybe, just maybe, they fall into the same category. I guess the rest remains to be seen.
I think it's just a game of adjustments for Chris Lamb. He really likes to get the kind of that visual aspect, get a visual perception of the opponent, figure out what it is they're trying to do, and then nobody is better in my mind in this conference in making adjustments from set to set. That is why Wichita State really puts the foot down in sets 2, 3, and 4.
We'll see if that continues here. 7-3. heads-up play there in the middle after what looked like an overpass by Temple turned into an Owl point.
Bit of a mistake here from Tabitha Brown.
Yeah.
She was trying to set up Lehman, I think, or maybe just get it back in the system, but instead popped it right over the net and allowed the easy point.
Koch with the kill, Croatian native. The point, Wichita State. Abby Lehman with another kill.
Surprise, surprise, she's sitting well over 600.
Seven kills for Abby Lehman.
All of them on feeds from Emily Hebert, who is rapidly approaching 20 assists for the match as well.
Shockers couldn't quite take advantage of Temple being out of system. But Brown does. But Brown's had some clean swings.
And if they don't take advantage of one free ball over and you give them another shot at it, it's almost a guaranteed point. This time the block was a little bit late getting there. Koch just sliding to her right a hair second late, and Shockers able to put it away.
Brown had 4 kills in the first set on 11 swings. A heads-up kill by Condoritas. Condoritas had 5 kills. She's kind of Emily Hebert light in a lot of ways.
Yeah, she's capable. 52 kills for her on the season. She had a season-high 7 against Tulsa. So we're not going to see quite the volume of attacks as Hebert will present, but that is definitely still something she can do.
Ace for Temple, making it 9-6. Yeah, Condoritas a little over 10 assists per set. When you get double-digit assists per set, that's, as Denning would say, rarefied air. You're really setting up your teammates in a pretty historic way. Koch to serve and gives the Shockers a point and a little momentum right back.
It's 3 service errors now for Koch. She was able to get the ace on the prior point when a couple of Shockers came together, but she has gifted the Shockers some big points.
That's 24 service errors committed by Koch. Only one Shocker has committed as many as 20 service errors. Now, they don't put as much emphasis on it as Temple would, but when you're giving away points, you're giving away points.
A very different serving philosophies, I think. Temple is searching for points from that back line, whereas Wichita State is kind of content just to get the ball into a rally, and they feel like their quality will eventually play itself out over the course of a point.
Coming into this match, Temple only had 14 more service aces than the Shockers did. So I guess there's more than one way to skin a cat. Wichita State doesn't have the high-risk, high-reward service serves for the most part, but the results have still been there with fewer errors, and Tabitha Brown strikes again.
Good pass, too, from Chivita on a ball that she put in the spot that Tabitha Brown needed it to make good contact and give the Shockers a point as they were doubling up Temple prior to the service error.
And right on cue, service error by Wichita State. So there have been a handful of those here this afternoon. Shockers took set 1, 25-22, and it was every bit the back and forth that score would indicate. Brown tried the finesse. And a little more power this time from Michaela Raudsepp.
One of my favorite things to watch about Emily Hebert is her recognition of just kind of the flow of a point. So it starts on the right side with Tabitha Brown, and if Temple's there, if they're set up defensively, eventually the point will slide over to the left. Raudsepp had a one-on-one matchup, and she took advantage.
Somehow that was inside the antenna, but it was a moot point because Wichita State flexing the muscles now, really putting some pressure on Temple.
Look at Chivita with the pancake to keep this one alive, and Hebert never knew that the play was over, just feeding Raudsepp, who thunders it home.
Bakir Ganeshwaratnam, the head coach for Temple, trying a couple of different combinations now that the Owls are down 7 in set 2 after dropping the first one. A little bit of desperation time for Temple, and they got a badly needed point right there.
You figure Raposh is going to play a big part in any kind of Temple comeback. They're going to need her to put up some big-time numbers, and she's capable of it. When she has her momentum going towards the net, or when the feed is in a good spot where she can make solid contact, she's dangerous.
Ostrom did a nice job of handling the serve. Almost a flat-footed attack by Papazoglu turns into a point for the Owls. 2 in a row for Temple.
Well, this is an example of something that Chris Lamb has talked about quite a bit over the course of this season. That's just putting together a good enough swing during a somewhat ugly rally to get a point. That's exactly what Papazoglu did there.
Mishandled pass at the net turns into another Owls point. So that'll prompt a timeout from the Shocker head coach Chris Lamb, trying to stem the tide a little bit here in the second set. The Ulrich Museum of Art will feature Dr. Rizvana Bradley in an artist talk. That's coming up tomorrow. Bradley is an assistant professor of film and media studies and African American studies at Yale University. There you see the start time. It begins at 6:15. The Campus Activities Center Theater. Her lecture is presented in conjunction with the Ulrich exhibition, Looking at the Overlooked. We have artist talk tomorrow at 6:15, 5:30 reception at the Ulrich Museum, and a lecture at the CAC Center, CAC Theater. So you knew Temple wouldn't roll over and die, and they certainly aren't. They're coming back, but we talked earlier about some milestones. Emily Hebert, boy, you talk about chasing down legends throughout the course of her time here at Wichita State. She continues to do so, and only Mary Elizabeth Hooper is ahead of her.
If Wichita State had stayed in the Valley for her 4 seasons, you could make a very solid argument she's the best setter in that conference's history. The transition in her senior year will make that argument a little more interesting, I think, but she definitely deserves to be ranked among the legends all time in the Shocker program.
We saw her and Abby Lehman featured in our sit-down quite a bit earlier in the season, as that duo, a bunch of Shocker seniors with their last go-around at Wichita State and their first trip through the American. Interesting dynamic with those Shocker seniors. Good dig on the back after the block by Hirakuji. And Temple comes storming back here. Denning, they were left for dead at 14-7.
And a good dig eventually setting up Rapash, who did a nice job of getting her body realigned on a very tight angle going cross court.
High pass from Chivita, and boy, right near the tape. That almost turned into a Shocker point, but now Temple making the Shocker sweat a little bit more here in the second. It's 5 in a row by the Owls. And there's one of those service errors we were talking about, risk reward. Backfires for Temple as Avery Salvador fires one into the net. Shockers needed that point.
It just felt like a momentum breaker a little bit just to get Salvador off of the serve. She had put together a couple good ones in a row.
Chivita to Raudsep. Great effort on the back, but had a little too much steam behind that one. So now Wichita State's righted the ship a little bit here in the second, it seems like.
This is the big-time right-side hitter that Wichita State has been hoping for from Michaela Raudsep. With her long athletic frame, her ability to elevate, she can really bring the thunder.
And a block that we saw a lot early in set one has come back, and now Wichita State, after a little bit of a hiccup, reestablishing some dominance. They're back up by 5 all of a sudden.
5th block of the match as Raudsep and Lehman teamed up for that stuff.
And now Temple's turn to have some shabby passing. Abby Lehman with another kill, and that again, that kind of bump in the road seems like a distant memory now as Temple will call another timeout. So 18-12 Wichita State here in the second set, trying to go up 2-0 on WSU TV.
Wichita State University is Shocker Nation. We exceed expectations, push boundaries, seize opportunities, and move boldly ahead. We are student-centered and innovation-driven. It's who we are. Our vision is simple but powerful. Create, innovate, collaborate, and celebrate. With one unifying purpose: to shock the world.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
Shockers and Owls meeting for the first time since September 22nd. When you look at the standings, the Shockers 13-0. Thought for all the world on Friday night that Temple would come in here just a couple of games behind them in the standings, but inexplicably dropping a match to the Memphis Tigers, who are down at the bottom of the American. And if Temple had any designs of winning the American, they certainly overlooked the Tigers a little bit, and Wichita State came out ready against UConn. They came out as ready as you would hope they'd be against Temple, the unquestioned second best team in the league, but Temple reeling a little bit right now.
Got off to such a slow start in the non-conference. They were hovering right around 500. Nice put away in the middle there from Dayock, but Wichita State took them out in the conference opener. After that, they really settled in. Prior to that Memphis loss, they had won 10 of their past 11. So just a trap game, I think, that got the best of them.
It was. Absolutely a look-ahead factor. Now a few in a row by Temple. An overpass for Wichita State, but that was just a good old-fashioned stone wall at the net. Nice block by Temple to get them within 3.
Game of runs right now. Temple with 5 in a row. Shockers answered with 4 in a row back, and now the Owls have strung together 3.
And back to Old Faithful. When it gets later in the set, like you and I were talking about in the first set, when you really need a point, there's really only one player you ought to be looking at.
I would love to see Wichita State's statistical breakdown of how many times they win points on a free ball over. It seems like they are so good at catching defenses out of position, getting themselves set up, and getting the ball in the hands of their best players.
And Temple probably more than anybody we've seen this season. What a great effort on the back line, but Temple has at least kind of had a stay of execution in those particular situations more than anybody we've seen. It hadn't always worked out for them, but they've scrambled probably better than any other team we've seen in the American.
Speaking of scrambling, nice dig by Salvador to keep that point alive, but Lehman was looming right there on the left side to turn aside the swing from Papazoglu.
2015, Wichita State, after winning a squeaker 25-22 earlier. Boston with a dig. Off a hand, a nice dig on the back by Condoritas. Wichita State cashes it in. Temple just a little bit out of sorts once again.
All it takes is one mistake, it feels like, and Wichita State just goes into pounce mode. This time, the pass just a little bit tight to the net. There was Hebert and Lehman looming and waiting to turn it aside.
Michaela Roudsepp, one of those Shockers seniors to serve. Big swing, and that's out. A misfire. Wichita State now up by 7 again. Papazoglu trying to go cross court.
You mentioned how Temple had fewer attack errors in that first set. They only had 4 to Wichita State's 7. That is completely reversed here in the second. The Owls have committed 7 attack errors to the Shockers 3.
Carla Dunavig, German native, checks in for Temple. Boy, great job of handling it tight to the net by Emily Hebert. Wichita State on the cusp of taking the first two.
And I love the buy-in, too, from Michaela Routset, putting the body on the floor to keep that point alive. And Hebert recognizing that there was no one in the middle, setting up Lehman.
Yeah, Abby Lehman gets the credit, but you got to rewind the tape a little bit to find a couple other players just as involved in that point.
And the runs continue to go back and forth. It's now gone 5, 4, 3, 5. We have not traded points in a while.
And off the tip of the hand of Michaela Routset, keeps it on the Shockers side of the floor, and point inside out for Temple. Another fine job, tight to the net. Boy, Emily Hebert's just, I would say, putting on a clinic at setting balls, but she does that every single night.
That clinic is open all season long, and she has just made it look so easy on very difficult passes. It requires a lot of touch and a lot of feel, and I think most importantly, it requires a lot of time working with your teammates, and she has plenty of that.
Wichita State dominated set number 2 after a pressure cooker set 1. All Shockers in the second, 25-16. Intermission time coming up. Stay with us here on WSU TV.
Wichita State University is Shocker Nation. We exceed expectations, push boundaries, seize opportunities, and move boldly ahead. We are student-centered and innovation-driven. It's who we are. Our vision is simple but powerful. Create, innovate, collaborate, and celebrate. With one unifying purpose: to shock the world.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
Well, I think you can safely get back to the theory that Denning, you and I talked about, the feeling out process in the first set and then stepping on the gas in the second set, because that's exactly what happened here in set 2 against Temple.
Pretty much played out exactly how we thought the script would. Wichita State just needed a couple of points to get a feel for what it is that Temple's trying to do, what they're trying to take away. And we know with how many weapons that the Shockers have that if you do try and just, for example, take away Abby Lehman, you can go to a Tabitha Brown or a Michaela Routz up on the outside and vice versa. And the Shockers absolutely turned on the gas in set 2.
Well, our intermission set down features an Illinois native for Wichita State, a world traveler and future sculptor of youth minds, Kara Molesky.
I definitely think my role on the team is like an energizer. So whenever we're at practice and games, I feel like the girls always call me Trucker Kara, because I'm always the one that has to like dig down deep and bring a lot of the energy and scream and shout and do crazy dances and stuff and make people laugh, and that really helps get people out of their comfort zone. If people are a more quiet person, I kind of force them to cheer or do whatever. So I think that's definitely one of my main roles. My team, they're the best. Part of the reason that it's doable every single day day to go in and put in all these hours and grind and sweat, because it gets hard with school and you're missing your family and everything, having these girls. And we have such nice, genuine people that have so many fun personalities that all balance each other out, that everyone's got everyone's back. It's just a really nice support system that we have here. I love all the girls. We all complement each other in our own way. Some people are more fun and outgoing. Others are a good person to hug if you need a hug, or someone that you can just look across the room and they'll start smiling at you. We just have a really nice group of girls. It makes having a fun, big team all the better. I mean, if you're putting in the hours and grinding away, you want to do it with people that you enjoy. And having those people be your support system not only pushes you further, but pushes the whole entire team further. Physically, academically, on the court, in every way, really. We're all each other's support system. We help each other study, we go and get tacos, we do fun things, and it all helps bring us all together. With art education, I just really like that the classroom can be a flexible place where I can go into work every day and I can choose what I want to do with the kids. I can tailor my lesson plan to the students or what's happening in the world during that year. So I think that's really cool. Where in other subjects you might be more forced to do a particular lesson plan, different curriculum, where art has a lot of freedom. I never knew exactly that was what I wanted, but as time went on and I learned more about myself and picking a career and everything, it just seemed like the right fit for me, and I've been really enjoying my student teaching. So I like how you can capture different people or elements in the world in a unique way that maybe the normal eye doesn't see, and then you can force people to look at a subject matter or see things differently based on what you capture. So that's kind of where I like to find things in my work. Right now I'm deciding between high school and elementary school for teaching. I'm kind of leaning towards high school, but I think I'm going to be moving closer to home, which is the suburbs of Chicago. I'm just gonna miss, I don't know, even everyday simple things like going to the cafeteria and sitting down with my team, or going to study hall and helping one of my teammates do flashcards for her test that's in an hour. Things little things like that, I feel like, I don't know, I don't take for granted, but I feel like I'm definitely gonna miss those when I'm gone.
And to update you on a couple of former Shockers, a couple of former Shocker All-American runners, Alafine Tuliamuk and Kellen Taylor both ran in the New York City Marathon today. Both finished in the top 13. Tuliamuk with a 2:33.18 to finish 13th, and Kellen Taylor finished 8th in the New York City Marathon at 2:29.56. Back with some stats for you and more coming up next on WSU TV.
Wichita State University is Shocker Nation. We exceed expectations, push boundaries, seize opportunities, and move boldly ahead. We are student-centered and innovation-driven. It's who we are. Our vision is simple but powerful. Create, innovate, collaborate, and celebrate. With one unifying purpose: to shock the world.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
Wichita State with a close one in set one. It was more of a dominating performance in set two, and I think Denning, the stats will bear that out, as Temple only hit 0-32 in the second set, and overall a paltry 114.
Shockers just took away everyone not named Izzy Rapash in that second set. And I'm not sure if their philosophy was she's going to get her kills, we're just going to limit everyone else, but whatever the game plan was, it has really worked. The Owls have been very limited offensively. The 39 digs has been a big part of that, and the fact that Wichita State got a W in set one with those 7 attack errors, you knew that probably wasn't going to bode well for Temple in set two once the Shockers righted the ship.
And a lot of it, we'll take a look at the highlights right now. And individually, Abby Lehman with another A tremendous first couple of sets statistically. She's hitting 688. We're getting used to the 600s out of her. But 5 kills from Michaela Raudsep, who went past 1,000 in her career. 4 from Emma Wright, 4 for Alex Kuhn. And we highlighted Kuhn at the very beginning too. You know, you get your core 2 or 3 attackers most of the time, but then Kuhn and Wright get slipped in there, and it makes it a nightmare for the opposing team.
Yeah, Abby Lehman and Tabitha Brown and Michaela Raudsep aren't going to score all 25 points in a set. You're going to have to find them in other places. And Kuhn has been an excellent contributor, typically very solid and fundamentally sound. Just keeps the ball in play, puts it in spots where defenders aren't, and gives the Shockers a chance to win points.
Izzy Rapash, the leading attacker for Temple, had only 7 kills and 16 total swings. And again, 114 was the attack percentage in the first 2 sets. So Wichita State and Temple getting set for set number 3. This is the second to last home match for Wichita State. They'll hit the road for a good long while before coming back right around Thanksgiving to take on Memphis. Kind of interesting. You and I talked about it a couple of times. They will play Memphis pretty much back to back, and yet it's been since September since we saw Temple. It's just the way the schedule works. There you see the slate for Wichita State.
You know, whenever your travel partners, I guess is the term, Wichita State and Memphis are, that last weekend is reserved for those two to match up a couple of times. And so they will get very acquainted in a very short amount of time. But a chance this afternoon to really isolate the Shockers and SMU at the top of the conference standings. Definitely would be a 2-team race if Wichita State holds on here this afternoon.
And I suppose that would afford Wichita State a little bit of an advantage not enjoyed by Temple, because the last 2 matches for Wichita State, regardless of what you think about Memphis, the Shockers will just get to focus on Memphis all week long. You know, Temple, at the very least in the back of their minds, at the very worst, they looked ahead of Memphis to lose that match. There you see Memphis down at the bottom, winning only twice in the league, but coming up when Wichita State goes back-to-back against the Tigers, it'll be all Tigers. They won't have to worry about anybody else.
Yeah, exactly right. And in my mind, if you give Chris Lamb a whole week to prepare for just one opponent as opposed to 2, that game plan is probably going to be pretty solid. You like Wichita State's chances against the Tigers in back-to-back matches.
And if you have any designs, if you're a Shocker player or coach, of hosting in the NCAA regionals, it's still in play. There simply cannot be any slip-ups as far as losses. You do have to run the table, it would appear. And I think some of the brass and some of the support staff have kind of figured it out. If the Shockers do run the table, their RPI would be right around 17, so right on the cut.
It's going to be tight.
It will be tight.
You almost worry if it comes down to that last weekend against Memphis, if the Tigers' RPI will end up dragging the Shockers down a little bit. That's putting the cart way before the horse. Sure. But still, it's something to watch, and I think it's something that the Shockers have in the back of their minds.
So the third set looms, and Temple has a huge mountain to climb to try to avoid losing 2 in a row after a 7-match winning streak was snapped Friday night in Memphis. Hebert to Tabitha Brown, and that lands just out. And I do believe for the 3rd consecutive set, Shockers have gotten the first point.
Never a bad idea to get Tabitha Brown going. She has responded from that rather quiet Friday against UConn with 7 kills and 15 attacks so far this afternoon.
It's rare you see somebody attack with the efficiency that Rapash has enjoyed today. She's hitting .375. That's even better than her very good .282 attack percentage on the season. Doesn't happen against Wichita State very often where one player shines like that, but it's just been her, fortunately, for the Shockers. They set her up not once but twice, and the Shockers are there both times. Boy, where do you pass it now?
Wow. Turning aside a couple of swings on the far side as Rapash tried to get going, and then they come cross court. The block slides over. Tabitha Brown going cross court and finds herself in the right place at the right time with high hands.
Literally, the Shockers were everywhere along the net. Achieving it to serve for Wichita State. She has 9 digs here this afternoon. Another service ace for the Shockers. Again, those are like pennies from heaven when you get a service ace for Wichita State.
They don't really count on them, but they've gotten 3 of them so far this afternoon, and they've been a nice little benefit.
Through 2 sets, Mostrom, Chivita, and Hannah Shelton, all with 9 digs apiece. And Raudsep attempting to dig one off the floor, could not. 3-1 Shocker.
A little bit too hot to handle for Raudsep, who was actually in pretty good position to make that dig, but Westfield got everything behind it. And a rocket off the right arm.
Westfield's 4th kill for Temple. And that one seemed to come right down from the rafters off of Abby Lehman's right hand. 4-1 Shocker.
Never even matters sometimes where defenders are set up whenever Abby Lehman hits it. As you can see there, an owl waiting right there. Didn't matter. The trajectory just down in a hurry.
The timing between Emily Hebert and Abby Lehman is kind of borders on unfair, as long as they've been together. And they've been through, can't imagine how many reps with one another. I mean, we're talking thousands easily, and they make it look easy.
We saw a couple of times earlier in set 1 when Emma Wright had passes from Hebert that maybe got off the tip of her fingers, or just there was some mistiming with the jump. You almost never see that with Lehman and Hebert. It's just flawless.
Shockers out of system for one of the few times today. Big swing and a kill for Izzy Raposh. Shockers, for the most part, have not had an answer for her, but they've had an answer for everything else.
She got off to a bit of a slow start in non-conference play. She actually hit 0 in their loss to Villanova, but has been playing very well ever since the start of conference play that all began against Wichita State.
Raposh, a native of Illinois. And that one through the block will turn into an owl point. He's a force to be reckoned with, no question. You mentioned coming in, hitting .282, and far and away the leading attacker with 269 kills. That's 3.5%. Shockers need a point. Go back to Abby Lehman.
It's like an ace you just constantly have up your sleeve, and this was fun to watch. It's been fun to watch all season. That's unstoppable.
A near service ace again for Emily Hebert.
Ever since set 1, Wichita State's attack percentage has just gone through the roof. They have raised it up above 300 now for the entire match. They're hitting .571 in the early going here in set 3.
Raudsep off a hand apparently, and it was out, certainly according to Condoritas, but apparently it hit off one of the owl talons at the net. And that was Raposh. Nothing? Nothing with the talons reference?
I don't want to even go there.
All right.
You had your chance with East Carolina earlier this year. Your pun
And
rights have been revoked.
There were a lot of ways to go with Pirates, and I ignored it all match long. Raudsep. 8-4 Wichita State. They've rarely been threatened since that tight first set.
Another very nice pass from Chivita on a blind one that set up Raudsep in the perfect spot, and she splits the block.
Ganesh Sharatnam takes a timeout for Temple, and we will break away with them. All Shockers here in the third set on WSU TV.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
The Shockers steamrolling their way to yet another weekend sweep. They destroyed UConn on Friday, trying to do the same to Temple here this afternoon. The Shockers to serve. Emily Hebert will do the honors. Denning, it's been an unbelievably busy weekend here on campus as far as Shocker sports, and so far so good.
We got no losses so far, I believe. Unless you want to count a baseball team
The
loss in an
baseball
inter-squad
beat
scrimmage.
itself, yeah. There's a point for Temple making it 8-5. Yeah, a couple of exhibition victories for the women. The men will play their second exhibition tomorrow after putting up 90 on Henderson State last night. Volleyball taking care of its business.
There are a lot of unsung heroes among student event personnel who have to be here for every single one of these Shocker games and do a good job of putting on a show each time.
Yeah, between facilities and sports information, there's a lot of moving parts.
That was Chase Jackson, by the way, who got the kill, checked in recently for Wichita State.
Touch a hand? Apparently so, because I do believe that was out, but that was off a Shocker hand. Papa Zuglu get credit for the kill there.
I think they may have got a Shocker in the net. Not really sure.
Papa Zuglu to serve, and if there wasn't a Shocker in the net, that's a ball don't lie kind of serve. When it went into the net, Shockers get it right back.
That's 6 service errors for the Owls so far this afternoon. We've said it before, you almost have to play perfect to beat Wichita State, and you can't just give away 6 points.
Yep. Nice tip by Temple to get within 3. Condoritas, again, she had 5 kills against Memphis and hit 308. Doesn't take the type of opportunities that Hebert will as far as volume, but she's just about as good as Emily when it comes to dumping it over the net.
Picks her spots very well. Very efficient attacker, but she definitely makes her hay distributing the volleyball.
Dayok to serve. We talked about the service errors that Temple is committed today, but when you're in a hole like they are right now, although they're inching their way back in it, don't you almost maybe have to depend on those service aces as they come, because you're not going to win a back and forth pass and serve match with Wichita State most days, so kind of have to pick your poison, right?
That's just a situation you'll have to evaluate on a case-by-case basis, I think, whether you're willing to take that risk.
Well, that worked out initially. Wichita State with an overpass by Chivita off the serve from Dayok, and it turns into a point. So residual effects from a pretty good serve by Eva Dayok. Now it's 10-9.
I've been pretty impressed by Westfield as well. I think Temple has themselves a good one in the freshman. As I mentioned, they'll have some players back. They will lose a lot. There is definitely a lot of senior leadership that's going to be departing Philadelphia, but some nice pieces will return.
Huge swing on the right by Raudsep. Temple right in it here in the third set. They got a lot more work to do beyond this, but first things first for them. They got to win this one to keep it going. Flat-footed attack by Westfield. A little off balance in the middle by Emma Wright. And right into the net. Izzy Raposh with I suppose you would call that an unforced error, and that's a rarity.
Well, they try to move her around a lot. She'll take a bunch of swings from the back row in addition to her duties as a right side attacker, but That time the swing was maybe a little bit ambitious. She was well off the 10-foot line, and the Shocker block was set up.
Shockers by 2 in set 3. This would be, and there's a service ace for Wichita State. This would be 14-0 for the Shockers, but really not all that close to the best start in conference play in Shocker history. They've been here before, haven't they?
They have. There are some very good teams that they'll have to contend with as they inch their way up the record book in Shocker history. An ace, by the way, from Raudsep. They have gone after Hirakuji a number of times in the back row.
And Raudsep with a big swing. She thought it was off a fingertip, but not. It was wide cross court. Attack error on Michaela.
She looks frustrated with herself on what I think she feels like was a missed opportunity. A nice pass. She had plenty of court to work with and just didn't catch it clean.
Once again, put a little too much oomph in it in trying to get the Shockers on their heels in the serve game, and that's the price you pay. So Wichita State stays kind of within arm's length of Temple. A little tip at the net turns into a point. Janine Simmons. She had 6 kills against Memphis. It's been quiet today.
Tabitha Brown looked like she was set up for another block, but the finesse had just enough to get over her outstretched fingertips. She caught it, but all it did was slow it down enough that Chivita couldn't quite get there.
Big swing and a great dig by Hirakuji. And the attack was deep. Again, Raposh wanted a Shocker fingertip on it, no call.
If we slow it down here, we'll get a pretty good look at this.
Even when you slow it down, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, just kidding on the better look. Typically, you can see the ball kind of change spin or change trajectory a little bit whenever there is a deflection at the net, but I didn't really see much of anything there.
Or someone's finger gets the worst of it.
Right.
You can kind of see it bending the way it shouldn't. But
get a gruesome slow-mo of a dislocation or something.
That was off a Shocker finger or arm. Papazoglu with the kill. Gets the Owls within 1.
Kind of Shelton was set up over on this side, and I think she thought that ball was headed out, but just did find its way inside the tape.
That's going to turn into a Shocker point, courtesy of Abby Lehman.
We joked earlier that Kara Bound was kind of like the Shocker closer, but if she's the closer, then it seems like Lehman is the setup girl. She gets it to that point in which you can put it away. When Shockers need big-time points, she almost always delivers.
Shockers getting closer to that. 15-13, still a little work to do here in the third set. An off-balance Dayoc just tipped it over. So Temple not ready to go away just yet. Raposh with another kill.
She's got herself a double-double now on the afternoon. 11 kills to go along with 10 digs. Very well-rounded player. Ranks in the top 10 in the American in blocks per set as well.
Temple ties it up. The Owls in the midst of a 4-game road trip. They'll go to SMU and Tulsa after this. Wichita State after this will embark on a 5-gamer away from home before wrapping up the season at home against Memphis. Oh, Raudsep with a great finesse, little tip across the net to the 10-foot line.
Yeah, there were 2 white jerseys waiting for her to deliver a big swing on that side, but she recognized there was no one hanging out behind. Found some empty court.
Shockers forged back ahead by 1 despite a pretty solid third set. Effort-wise by Temple, not going away for sure. Now 2 in a row by the Shockers, maybe have taken a little wind out of the Owls' sails.
The block has been something else for Wichita State today. Chase Jackson getting in on the act as she sends it right back off the top of the head of the Temple attacker. That's 9 blocks now as a team.
Through the block. Point Owls, 17-16. Papazoglu with now 8 kills. Rapash, the only one in double figures with 11. Lehman leads everyone with 14. Temple just can't get over that hump, not only in this set, but really all match long.
Those service errors are more than just free points. They feel like just complete momentum crushers. Whenever you win an emotional point, you get a chance to get on some kind of a roll.
I think
give it right away.
I think we've talked about that before. You put 3 or 4 together and you start feeling pretty good about yourself, and the last thing you need is a service error. That's just a gut punch almost.
8 of them for the Owls so far today. And the last thing you want to do is give Wichita State a chance to grab that momentum right back. And as far as a momentum establishing player, I feel like Michaela Rounsup is that.
She's got 10 kills now and 27 swings. So after kind of a quiet start, she's really turned it on. (19-17). They do have a handful. Denning was talking about it's a senior influence team for Temple, but Dana Westfield, sophomore. Papazoglu, a Greece native, only a freshman. Karakuji, their libero, is a junior. And Shockers know about that senior stuff that they're going to have to replace. You don't want to think about it, but you know it's coming. And the Shockers have a slew of seniors that are really making this an historic run through the American. There's one of the non-seniors, Tabitha Brown, who is a junior.
To look ahead to next year, Tabitha Brown is going to be asked to do a whole lot with all the seniors departing. She will be tasked not only with a leadership role, but going to have to contribute in a variety of ways.
Tabitha, of course, the younger sister of Zach, basketball team. Zach Brown, one of a handful of seniors on the basketball team. And of course, big things expected of them this year.
That's fantastic from Hebert right there. Overpass on the dig from Mostrom, and instead of trying to redirect it to set somebody up in the front, she just guides it onward with the hand. As you watch, there were a couple Owl defenders who slid up just a half step. That's all she needed.
And she did try to set up teammates at least twice earlier in the match, once successfully, once not, but did it herself that time to give the Shockers a 3-point advantage. And now make it 2 as Gabby Mostrom couldn't keep it in play on the back line. Papazoglu another kill.
It's a tough ask for Mostrom. That was a missile and off to her right. Did everything she could just to get a body part on it.
Yeah, your forearm's not flat. Now that's about the only prayer you have on that one. Brown handled through a hand, and then Conorides kept it alive, but Emily Hebert kind of exerting her will now down the stretch. We talked in the first couple of sets that look for Abby Lehman when it gets to be winning time, but Emily Hebert says, I got this.
Hey, Rakuji looked like she was trying to take control of that point, set somebody else up, and instead there was a collision, the beneficiary being Hebert.
Hannah Shelton gives the Owls a reprieve for the moment. Shockers winning 25-22, 25-16 in their bid to stay unbeaten and go to 22-3 overall on the season. Shockers have not lost since September 17th.
That's a really nice job from Rapash, having to twist her body on a pass that forced her to kind of recalculate in midair. But she's still got a lot behind this and slid it cross court.
Crowd trying to give the Shockers a boost. And Chase Jackson, the freshman from Denver, with the kill to give the Shockers a 2-point lead again, and a timeout called by the Owls. So Wichita State knocking on the door of another home sweep. Again, you have to go back to September 17th, the last time the Shockers lost. That was a sweep to then number 19 Iowa. And since then, that coincidentally signaled the start of conference play. And then, of course, the Shockers beat Temple 3-1, and then off they went throughout the American. Stop by the Shockers Sports Grill and Lanes 2 hours prior to all WSU men's basketball games and enjoy the great game day specials on food and drinks. It's a perfect place to meet your friends before all the men's home games. And if the Shockers are on the road, you can catch all the games on TV at Shockers Sports Grill and Lanes, lower level in the Radigan Student Center. So drop in there tomorrow at 5 o'clock before Wichita State takes on Newman in the exhibition here at the Roundhouse.
Shane, you mentioned how that match against Temple kicked off American Conference play. It also kicked off the run that Abby Lehman went on. She had 14 kills in that match. It really started the streak where she has been putting up 500, 600, 700% hitting percentages, and it's just been a torrid pace. You feel like she can't possibly get better, and yet each and every match she seems to go out and do just that.
So the Shockers with 2 more to get. This has turned out to be, at least statistically, similar, more similar to set 1. Although all afternoon long, the Shockers have rarely, and I mean rarely, been even behind by 1. But now Temple inches within 1, with the Shockers only needing 2 more. They were serving up 23-21. Temple gets the point, now the side out. And the Shocker fans trying to will the ladies to yet another victory here at home. Shelton didn't exactly handle that one with her best effort. She gets bailed out. That's more like it. That's what you call a mulligan.
Great dig on the back row from Shelton on a rocket off the right arm of Rapash. And who else but Abby Lehman? Here she comes, the closer.
Here comes the closer.
Call to the bullpen.
And well, for some reason, Hannah Shelton kind of backed off of that one, so Temple stays alive. It's 24-23. Shocker fans still feeling pretty good, though. Boy, even when things are a little bit out of system, Wichita State seems to have it work out. Great individual efforts there by Shelton and Hebert, and eventually the kill will give the Shockers yet another victory. 14 consecutive to start the American season. We'll be back with more after this on WSU TV.
Introducing Dunkin's new cold brew coffee, steeped slowly in cold water for small batches with an ultra-smooth, full-bodied flavor. Discover the craft of cold brew today and keep on. America runs on Dunkin'.
Wichita State, within the last month or so, Denning has turned into Diggstown. And that's probably the big reason why they won today, because statistically on the season and today, Wichita State and Temple not that dissimilar, but Shockers get on the floor and get after it, don't they?
I think it's just buying in from every single player on the roster. 57 digs for the Shockers. They had 4 players in double figures: Hebert, Mostrom, Chivita, and Shelton. And how about Michaela Routset chipping in 7 digs as well, in addition to her 10 kills. It was a very thorough defensive performance, and even when Temple was able to put some things together, you never really felt threatened, because you always knew that the Shockers would come up with that big play.
Temple stumbled against Memphis. The Shockers did not against UConn. And then in the clash of the Titans, it was all Wichita State as they sweep the season series with Temple and stay undefeated in American play. Denning and I will talk to you again on November the 24th after a 5-game roadie for Wichita State. For Denning, this is Shane saying thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Wichita State stays perfect in the American.